today's show, it's July. Let's be optimistic. How about some reasons for excitement for the Trailblazers season? Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? Your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine, make it your first listen, and tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, let's get excited. The last couple days, the show has focused on win totals, right? On this, you were listening to Friday, July 26th show, and on Wednesday's show, we did a whole show on the Blazers win totals. FanDuel has them at 21.5, the lowest of the over/unders of any team in the Western Conference, tied for the lowest line or the smallest line of smallest over/under total of any team in the league, or along with Washington, and only Brooklyn is lower at 19.5, right? Like, the Blazers are projected to be bad. It's very realistic that they're going to be bad. We've kind of spent a lot of time talking about, kind of what that feels like. In yesterday's show, a listener shared a comment basically saying, like, if they can't figure out a way to win like 22 or more games, even with as bad as they are, it's an abject failure of a season. And I kind of, I totally understand and even to some extent share that sentiment, but I don't want to do that today. Because it's Friday, it's the end of July, and you were listening to a podcast about the Portland Trailblazers. You don't need to be beaten over the head with the reason that the team that you're interested in stinks, right? A team that you're a fan of stinks. We're going to get that, right? The games are going to be sobering, and that's like a whole different thing. What I want to offer you in today's show is some reasons for excitement. Because when I was kind of thinking about this show, what I was thinking about is like, I'll just kind of let me take you under the hood for a second. A lot of the way I kind of think about these shows, and particularly in the off season, is like, if you're a Blazers fan, what do you want to tune into? And it's like, you don't want to tune in to just like, hey, this team sucks and here's why. Like, you don't need the deep realism. You want reasons to kind of hold on to something, right? Reasons to be like, okay, I could get excited about this team. So totally agnostic, totally independent of record. I want to offer things to get excited about. This is if the team wins 19 games, if they win 39 games, or anywhere in between. I guess I should have got a higher number with that other one. Let's take it again. This is whether the team wins 19 games or 59 games or anywhere in between. Like, things that you can get excited about, earnestly excited about right now, thinking about the team, when preseason starts in October, when guys get back into town in September, and then during this August kind of downtime in the NBA, the true quiet time in the NBA of August and early September, things you can get excited about. Let's start with the absolute obvious ones. Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe. The reasons that you're excited about this team is that the Blazers' last two lottery picks prior to adding Donovan McClain, and more on him in a moment, have a chance to play together and have a chance to grow together for the first time. They just didn't get to play very much together last season because the roster was a little bit crowded, so it was hard to play them. Scoot was starting, and then and Shaedon Sharpe was coming off the bench, and then Anthony Simons got hurt, and then Scoot dropped into the second unit, and then Shaedon Sharpe got hurt, and he only played 32 games and missed 50 of them. Like, they just didn't play much together. And Scoot Henderson struggled a little bit, and Shaedon Sharpe had this weird part of the season where it's like his best stretch was when he was playing like just a cajillion minutes, and it was like just a weird time. But he was really good, but he was also like playing 40 minutes, so it felt a little bit strange. You can just drop all that. The reason isn't to like look back and say, oh man, I wish it had been that way. The reason to be excited is because you get to see them. You get to see year 3 Shaedon Sharpe, a chance for a really huge, important season in his career, a chance for him to put it together. Sharpe has all the tools. He has all the tools. He can score from all 3 levels. He's athletic in a way that other guys, even in a hyper-athletic league, Shaedon Sharpe is athletic in a way that other guys aren't. He is a freak. He has the tools to be an excellent two-way player. Budding playmaking skills, ability to create his own shot off the dribble. He has the skills that stars have. He just hasn't put it together. And the excitement is that he can. He can. He can find the consistency, and you can see him and watch him grow. It is exciting to watch young players come into their own and grow up right in front of you. And Shaedon Sharpe has a chance in year 3 to do exactly that. And it's really the same deal with Scoot Henderson, too. The excitement over Scoot Henderson is that he grows into what was promised. Point guard is a hard position to learn in the league, and he showed us those growing pains right in front of us in year 1. But the excitement for year 2 is that after that year of seasoning, and after, quite frankly, a humbling rookie campaign in which he had some really tough times, the excitement is that he puts it together. The playmaking chops that he showed, particularly towards the end of the season, continue to blossom. The athleticism that he kind of teased with prior to entering the NBA, he starts to put it together in a more functional way. And the finishing and the decision-making kind of round into form because he's had more reps, he's had a stronger understanding, he's had an ability to see himself on film, and not just like think about it and talk about it, but like see himself execute on film. And he puts it together. And then he gets to play with Shaedon Sharpe. And that duo that seems to complement each other so well. Scoot Henderson as a willing passer who wants to play fast. Shaedon Sharpe who is a blur off the ball, an excellent cutter who really in his first season in the league, one of his best skills was understanding how to work the baseline, how to work off the ball to get himself open. A complementary backcourt duo that's 20 and 21 years old, growing into what they can be and showing you the future regardless of the outcome. That's a reason to be excited. If you're sitting here in July listening to the podcast, the reason you're excited is because Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe are going to play basketball together in the fall. That's a reason in and of itself to be excited. But it's not the only reason by any means. By any means. There's some new guys. And one of the most exciting things about a basketball team is that when there's a new player and you can kind of close your eyes and envision what they might look like on it in a filling familiar needs. And I think the Blazers got 2 new guys on this roster that clearly address needs, and it's clearly exciting to think about what that might look like. Let's talk Donovan Clingan. Let's talk Deni Avdija in the second segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook and official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Summer's here. The Olympics are here. Baseball's still rolling along. Major League Soccer and the National Women's Soccer League here in North America have taken a little break. They've taken a little step back so you can, so everyone can go get into their international competitions in the Olympics. But the Olympics are here, and FanDuel is here to make summer fun. Because even when maybe the bigger sports in the U.S. slow down, FanDuel doesn't go anywhere, and that's why they're giving everybody, I'm talking everybody, new customers, old customers, returners, first-timers, whoever it is, a boost and a bonus daily all summer long. That's right, something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel. Head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summers. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right. The obvious things to be excited about this Trailblazers team is Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe. But when I'm thinking about this, the number one thing that comes to mind right after those two, right after that young duo, the young backcourt of the future to get excited about and envision what it might look like as they grow together and earn that synergy and all of those things, is the new guys. Why people love the offseason is because the team you root for gets shiny new toys. And the Blazers got some pretty interesting ones. Let's start with Deni Avdija. Deni is so intriguing and so exciting, and that's the word of the day, but he's so intriguing because he answers so many of the Blazers' questions. Like, one of the things they were pretty light on last year was playmaking and shooting. Those are 2 things. 2 of the things they relied on last year was playmaking and shooting. In theory, Deni Avdija is had his best shooting season of his career and has kind of like maybe ironed out, like he was a really good, he only took, I believe, according to Clean Glass, 66 threes from the corners, but he made half of them, 48% from three. Like he just knocks them down. Corner threes are catch and shoot shots. Those are not shots created off the dribble, right? That is natural spacing that helps your teammates if you're taking threes from the corner. Those are almost always quality looks that you get generated off of the pass, and they're looks that NBA teams hunt and NBA defenses try to take away, specifically as corner threes. And Deni Avdija made freaking half of them last year. That alone should help everybody, and there's reason to be excited just on that very basic fact, because the Blazers are one of the worst shooting teams in the league, depending on how you slice it, one of either the worst or the third worst team in the league, and like they struggled, right? They struggled from three. Adding another shooter is like immediately addresses a need they had, immediately addresses a need, and Avdija plays the position they need him at, right? Like they lost their best three-point shooter in Malcolm Brogdon, but Brogdon couldn't play off of Shaedon and Scoot. You can't get them all on the court. Avdija not only plays not only brings shooting, but he plays a position of need that fits cleanly with the rest of the roster. In addition, he brings some real playmaking chops. I think the best version of Avdija plays like a high tempo, up tempo, full speed transition game, and he gets to push, use his strength. He's pretty darn strong. He's good in transition. It's like that's the best version of him. But you can't run every single time down the floor. You can play quicker, but you can't run, because if the other team scores or if there's a free throw, whatever, they're going to play against a set defense. Probably, like, even if you run a lot, you're going to play against a set defense half the time, right? Even if you're one of the most aggressive transition teams in the league, you're going to play against a defense basically half the time, a little less than half the time, right? So like Avdija will, even if he doesn't get to do what he's probably best at every single trip down the floor, the shooting as a spacer, and then as an on-ball guy, like, an on-ball guy, that his ability to pass and make plays is something they desperately needed. They just didn't have enough guys who could pass. And if you don't have enough guys who can pass, the creativity you can have on offense is just really limited, right? Like, I'm not talking like the Blazers like can't throw passes, basic passes. Sometimes they couldn't, but like, Avdija is a creative and like thoughtful passer, right? He can manipulate defenses. He can make little hook passes. You'll see him make a ton of like one-hand hook passes back across the court. He's got the juice. A bunch of drop-off passes where he'll beat his guy, get 2 feet in the paint, and then leave it for someone or throw a little soft lob. Daniel Gafford, one of the great lob catchers in the league, but like Deni and Daniel Gafford, he could throw him lobs. And perhaps DA becomes a beneficiary of that. Deni Avdija answers so many of the Blazers' questions, and he fits that position of need. Like he slots easily and comfortably into your starting small forward role. I'm sure he can play a ton of minutes at the 4 as well. Like I think that's fine. I wouldn't worry about that too much. I know there's people who miss traditional power forwards, but that position kind of got nuked over the last decade. That position just we as an NBA watching people, we have slowly watched the traditional power forward disappear. It has gone the way of the dinosaur. Shout out to my man Dinger. Like Deni, he can play either of the forward slots, and he complements the Blazers' other players. Like when Anthony Simons is on the court, you can give Deni the ball a little bit more. Ant can play off the ball where he's excellent, and Simons can, spend more time as an off-ball spacer that opens up the rest of the court and also doesn't give him as much of a burden of playmaking burden and just like creation burden that I think at times wore him out at the end of last season. And when Scoot's on the court, someone who's like a non-shooter who needs the ball in his hand a little bit more probably, then Deni can toggle to be an off-ball guy, and his ability to switch and morph in between those two positions is going to be incredibly interesting to see how the Blazers can incorporate that. Deni just fits a lot of their needs. And agnostic of record, finding a young player at has not yet celebrated his 25th birthday, finding a young player who fits your needs and can grow with the young core is incredibly exciting. That is a reason in and of itself for excitement, because you say like, okay, right away we can see how it works, and then you get to watch it grow together. He's under contract for 4 seasons. You get to watch him grow with this team from age 23 on. That's one of the new parts that's exciting. The other new part that's exciting, and let's note this here, the Blazers are largely running it back. 13 of their 15 players are returning. They're relying in some ways on internal improvements, like on their young players that are already on the roster. Obviously, they're going to make some trades at some point, and then the roster's going to look different, and yada, yada, yada. But like in the immediate term to begin the season, we're relying on some internal improvement because it's largely the same, other than Deni and Donovan Clingan. And Clingan, when we've seen him a little bit, the dude knows what he does and does it really well, even with like his obvious offensive shortcomings. And I think those, like, even during the sort of like amateur scouting process here on Locked On Blazers, it was obvious that he had some offensive shortcomings, right? But like, even outside of that, or recognizing that he does have some of those, it's like, dude knows what he does. He protects the rim and he's gigantic. And in Summer League, what did he do? He protected the rim and he was gigantic. He blocked almost 4.5 shots a game in Summer League, playing 25 minutes a night. He just knows exactly what he's supposed to do. And the Blazers were one of the worst rim protection teams in the league last season. And I don't think Clingan's going to step in and play enough minutes or with enough regularity because they already have DeAndre Ayton on the roster, and he is a 26-year-old. He's not exactly... he ain't exactly old, right? And he's going to play. He's just going to play a lot. But like Clingan again fits a weakness of the roster. They weren't a good rim protecting team. They went out and probably got the best rim protector in the draft, with all due respect to Alex Sarr. Clingan looks great on that end. Sarr's probably just like a different type of defender, maybe more versatile, but not like just like sheer, are you going to keep dudes out of the nets? Clingan just looks great at that. In our brief, 4 games of watching him in Summer League, he was great at it. If he becomes an elite defensive rebounder in the NBA, then he's going to be a very special player. But even if that takes time, and even if the offense takes time, the reason to be excited is because he knows what he is. You don't have to worry about convincing Donovan Clingan to play a role, or convincing him like, hey, I know you were this when you were younger at a lower level, but you got to be this in the league. He knows exactly what he's going to do in the league. He knows exactly how he's going to get paid. He knows exactly what his future and what his talents are, and he does those things. And one of the easiest things for, sort of onboarding young players is if they get it, they get what they're supposed to do, and you don't have to say like, yeah, I know you were supposed to be this like awesome one-on-one scorer, but you're not that. You're a role player now, because 85% of the league is role players. Clingan understands that he's a dude who's like been a role player on really quality teams at UConn, and while he was a role player, he's a freaking star, right? Like, he's getting drafted 7th overall. You can be a star in your role. He's maybe not like a capital S superstar, but he's like he understands exactly what is asked of him, and he's shown that what he is good at, he will do every time down the court. You're not going to have to beg him to say, okay, here's the way we get the best out of you. Donovan Clingan right now, today, knows exactly how to get the best out of himself when he steps on an NBA court. So all of the growing pains and all of the lumps he's going to have to take because he is a young player, and young players generally struggle in the league, they don't come with anything other than just like skill work and getting, probably functionally stronger and other sort of like physical elements he's going to have to add to his game. But like the sort of just like getting what and who you are in the league, Clingan knows exactly what he is in the league and what he's going to be in the league. And I think that coupled with Deni, that makes for, like when the roster changes over more, it'll be a little bit interesting how they kind of make it all work. But the excitement in the near term is that they just didn't add too many new players. And the 2 players they did add, like the 2 additions to the 15-man roster that they did add, answer obvious needs and fill obvious roles. It's just simple. And thinking about how new players fit simply, as opposed to maybe this time last summer when it was like they had some new players and like, how does this work? There isn't that really. There isn't nearly as much confusion. It's much more straightforward about what this looks like and how it's going to work. And there's excitement for new toys and new parts. And then once you say, okay, here's how it's going to work, then you get to refine it, sharpen it, and become the best version of it. You know what else is exciting? We don't know. We don't know. There's going to be something that happens this year that we don't know right now at the end of July. Let me offer you a couple examples and tell you some things that the unknown to be excited about. Join me in that 3rd segment. Won't you, to close the show. Let's still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. One of the final reason I think for the Blazers to be for Blazer fans to be excited about this team is that someone and something is going to happen that you don't know about yet. I want to take you back in time a little bit. Think about back in time to as training camp opened last year, right? You didn't know Duop Reath was going to be one of the best stories of the Blazers season. You didn't know that his journey from Sudan to Australia to all over the map, to LSU, to all over the map, chasing the basketball dream in China and Lebanon and Australia was going to end up with a summer league tryout with the Blazers, summer league stint with the Blazers, a two-way contract that he was clearly too good for, and then because he was too good for it, earning an NBA contract, guaranteed money for 2 seasons, and a chance to make the league at 27. The best story of the Blazers season, Duop Reath. The most enjoyable part of the Blazers season. You had no idea it was coming. And neither did I. I didn't even do a season preview for Duop Reath because he was on a 2-way contract, and I said, we'll talk about him if he plays, but he's not going to play. I'm not going to do 12 minutes on some 2-way guy. I didn't know. I'm just some dude. And to me, Duop Reath was just some dude. And then he became the most entertaining, the most fun part, the best story of the Blazers season. It's a reason to be excited because you don't know what's in store. And think about Toumani Camara. At the time of the Damian Lillard trade, you were probably pretty excited about Rob Williams, a guy who had been in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation and one of the best defenders in the NBA. Malcolm Brogdon, former sixth man of the year, and DeAndre Ayton, a former number 1 overall pick, who you thought a change of scenery could unlock how special he could be. Oh yeah, and the other dude, I don't know how to say his name yet. Camara? You didn't know. And then he played a preseason game, and that very first preseason game, it was like, this lefty's got the juice. I remember it. I was actually back home in North Carolina. I recall well watching the Blazers, Blazers first preseason game, and I'm watching Toumani hoop, and I'm like, yeah, I am so intrigued by him. And I knew nothing about him when the game started. And by the end of the game, he was one of the most intriguing parts of the Blazers roster. I'm like, yeah, I would like to see more of this guy. I want to see more of Toumani Camara. I want to see more of what, okay, he went to Dayton from Belgium. Okay, yeah. I'm excited to learn more about him. All I knew was he was like a toolsy forward who had played college or briefly played college basketball with Anthony Edwards. That's I knew his bio, right? And then by the end of the year, he's he's a real find by the Blazers, right? He's someone who the front office found, or at least the reporting from Jason Quick of The Athletic suggests that they were kind of demanded that he be part of the trade with Phoenix that was the multi-team deal that sent Dame to Milwaukee and brought DeAndre and Toumani to Portland. They kind of demanded he be part of the deal, demanded he be part of the plan, and then oh yeah, now you get why, because he's freaking effective, right? he's really good. And so probably the 2 most positive stories coming out of the Blazers season last year, the most sort of feel good, sort of undeniable positive stories, with respect to Jabari Walker, but I don't think he's this level. But the 2 most positive stories of last year were the emergence of Toumani Camara and the sort of revelation that became Duop Reath. Oh, this dude's an NBA player. They just found an NBA player who was kind of got his first shot here in Portland. Something like that is going to happen this season. I don't know what it is. I don't know who it is. I don't know what, if it's Ryan Rupert or Chris Murray, or it's Jabari Walker taking a massive step forward, or it's Jeremy Grant having a year that just nobody saw coming, right? There is something that is waiting for you that is unknown. And one of the exciting parts about watching a young team, and again, being win-loss record agnostic, is that you can appreciate Toumani Camara and you can appreciate Duop Reath. And if you're listening to Locked On Blazers on July 26, 2024, you are the type of person who will have no problem getting excited about the Duop Reaths and about the Toumani Camaras in the world. I have no doubt about it. It's there for you. We don't know what it is, but somewhere behind the wall is something really special and fun that you will, buy a novelty T-shirt about. Shout out to Toumania at some point in the coming months. Those are reasons to be excited. I hope this takes you into your weekend in late July, the end of summer here in Portland. It's not over, but we're Back to school is coming, y'all. That as we get there and march toward basketball season, I hope this brings you some positivity. That is going to do it for this program, for you and for me for the week. Next week we shift 5 days a week, almost every 5 days a week, 46 weeks out of the year. Then we take 6 weeks of a little step back. The podcast doesn't really go anywhere. We're doing 3 shows a week. I feel pretty confident. I don't know this to be a fact, but I feel pretty confident that this will be the only Blazers podcast that posts 3 times a week over the next 6 weeks. We'll ramp up because when we get to September, other folks will come back into the game. And shout out to y'all, everybody I got no beef with anybody in the game. I'm just saying I do this a lot, and I'm proud of doing it a lot. I got to put a lot into it to do this 5 days a week, and I really appreciate you all for rocking with me. It was one of the reasons I wanted to do sort of like a true positive episode today, because I think there's been a lot of focus on wins and losses and play-in and lottery and Cooper flag. It's like, nah, who cares about that for right now? Be excited about what is there and what could be and what you don't know and what might be. But the next couple weeks, I will have guests on. If you're a longtime listener to the program, you know how August and September go. I'll bring guests on that will have 3 shows a week with my long interviews with those guests. It'll be a bunch of fun. People you know from the Blazers media world on this program, talking Blazers. We'll look ahead. We'll do some things. If big news happens, obviously we'll talk about the big news. But if not, you'll have 3 shows a week regardless waiting for you. Just a slight step back so I can catch my breath and get rolling. And then when we come back to 5 days a week in the middle of September, then it's on. And we go until July. That's what we do. That's how the show works, how the program works. Appreciate you rocking with me. How about this? I'll be back on Monday for 3 shows next week. With a fun interview. Haven't recorded it yet, but it's coming soon. So look for that one. And then tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.